Hey, good morning, Tana. How you doing?
Good morning, Jason. Doing well, thank you.
Good, good. It's time for another book chat, and that always makes my day a good way to start off the week.
Indeed, I agree very wholeheartedly.
Definitely. Well, today's book is one that was selected by me for personal reasons, but I know that a lot of people share this, and that has to do with potential money trauma. And why are we out there working, trading our minutes of our life for this money? And should we be getting more of it? Should we be working harder? Why are we doing all of this? And it's good to just pause and take a look at this rather than just going into what we normally do, which is how to be more effective and work better hours, not more hours, with the modalities that we teach in our trainings.
Hmm.
The book today is called The Soul of Money, with a subtitle, Reclaiming the Wealth of Our Resources.
Hmm.
And the author, her name is Lynne Twist. And I have to say, the book was what I was hoping it would be for me.
Hmm.
And I know that you're going to have an interesting take on it because you don't share the same concerns I have. And when I say concerns, they're not active concerns. These are contracts that I signed when I was a young boy, limbic attachment fears around money. And up front, I wouldn't have said I have these fears because I have a pretty abundant life. I work hard. I'm very I'm generous when I have money, and but I do wake in the morning, every morning of my life, with this automatic thing that meets me. That's kind of a mix of fear and anxiety, and it has a lot to do with scarcity.
Uh-huh.
Just because of my childhood, I did not come up poor. My mom and dad were very, they were middle class. We'd never tried for money, but my little brain when I was young took on some sentences that I would hear my mom and dad say sometimes that made me think, oh, there's not enough money. And then I forgot to take the 7-year-old out of the driver's seat here at 46.
Yeah.
And until you surgically remove those limbic attachments from childhood, they stay.
Right.
And people around you notice it, but you usually don't. So that's the work I've been doing. And that's why this book came to be a book chat with you and I.
Hmm.
So tell me about your take on this, because I kind of said, hey, let's read this. And you were like, yeah, you're a friend. I'll do this for you.
I love
But
reading all books, so it's never a
good.
hardship for me. I enjoyed her journey in the book, because she started out as a typical American chasing the Benjamins and realizing as she's acquiring more crap that she is losing time with her children, and she was just like feeling like she was in this insane cycle of chasing money over wealth, in her life. Wealth meaning not just money, but wealth in every part of her life. And she and her husband pivoted, and she is now a philanthropist who works to end world hunger. So she literally is walking amongst both the poorest and the richest people on the planet. And a person who walks among those groups all the time as her work, she, to me, has a lot of important things to say about money, because she's not just looking at it from one vantage point. She is looking at it from both ends of the spectrum. And she's like, this is what I see. And this is what the book was about. So I definitely appreciate her perspective. And there's a lot of different books right now that I think that are telling us, don't focus on just money as wealth. Let's look at wealth as a holistic part of what makes our lives better, and money is just a mere part of it. And so I really enjoy books that kind of focus on that, because I definitely am of that persuasion that money is not the be all end all. It's how it fits into the matrix of everything else that makes your life better.
No person would ever say money is not important.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Money is one of the beautiful energies of our existence. Calories are another energy.
Mhm.
Photons are another. Money is just an energy source. It can be used for great and horrible, but it is not the thing that our maladjusted culture has made it to be.
Mhm.
And I remember reading that book. It's called The Secret of Shelter Island. At the
Mhm.
very end, it says, he's talking to a very wealthy man, or an interview about a wealthy man, and he says, "Hey, your successful book recently. You could have 10x'd that, and you would not have even 1 month's salary of this individual, this rich house they were at." And he goes, "Yeah, but I have something that he never will."
Mhm.
And the interviewer said, "Oh, really? What's that?" And he said, "Enough. I
Yeah.
have enough." And there's so much truth in that. And it is fall time here in Cleveland. And sure enough, the leaf blowers come right when we're doing our interview. So, but let's continue forward, and let me know if you can't hear me.
I can
Sound good?
hear you.
Okay, good. Well, then I'll just keep on going, and I'll just elevate just a little bit. But I took 3 notes for myself as to why I was reading this. And the 3 primary notes that I took have to do with the 3, what the author Lynne Twist calls the toxic myths
Yeah.
of money. And she has 3 of them kind of outlined, and she goes into beautiful detail for us. And I'll just kind of go through each of these, and let's just chat a little bit about each 3 of these. Toxic myth number 1 is that there's not enough.
Mhm.
Just this deep, profound belief, even if it's subconscious in you, that there's not enough. And this usually carries over into other areas, including money, which this book's about, but time, food, not enough earth. The not enough theme usually carries through in all areas for people who deeply believe in this at their roots.
Mhm.
And the problem with this is it creates like a hair on fire situation for the people that have this myth deeply embedded in their belief structure, where they start ignoring health and care of self, and they start ignoring relationships to go out and get theirs. These are the toxic workers, the corporate warrior, where the only thing that matters was that title on that business card and how much money, how many zeros I have.
Right.
It's not a good place to be. It's not really how humans were designed, and it's something that if you resonate with that myth, she gets into some beautiful solutions into kind of Xing out of that, and at least beginning to have the conversation. As
Mhm.
Bo talks in his books, uh, well, I can't remember what his books are, but at any rate, Bo Lotto, he talks about if you need to get from point A to point B, you don't go from point A to point B. There's a very important step in between, and it's not point A. So you
Uh-huh.
go from point A to not point A,
Mhm.
then you can get to B. And so, with all of these myths that we'll go through, keep that in mind. You're not trying to get from A to B, you're trying to get from A to not A,
Right.
then go to B.
Right.
Super important. Most people don't know that about change. So, Tana, what do you think about myth number 1? There's not enough.
Yeah. I feel like that is less of because she talks about what are our life sentences about money, which is something that you've kind of touched on a couple of times. You've got quite a few life sentences about money. And I definitely have some of that there is not enough in me, but I've also got that like growing up in Wisconsin, kind of we are happy with what we have and being content and not necessarily thinking that there is not enough, but make do with what you have. And that is another big point of this book is the idea of sufficiency and reclaiming the power of what is already there. So that's also something that was definitely imprinted on me as a child. So as I walk through this life, I've got both of the there's not enough, but there is always
Uh-huh.
so much to work with. So those are always just these constant little ends of the spectrum that I kind of have to work between. And when I get too close to one, I usually feel off balance and I'm like, wait, we gotta remember, like if I'm feeling like when we started this venture, with us two working together, I was very used to the corporate getting paid every 2 weeks. And that is not the pay structure that I have been in for the last 2.5 years. And stepping out of that secure paycheck to one that was less known was a very like come to Jesus moment where I had to examine very closely how I felt about money. And I had a real fear hurdle that I had to jump over in order to make this move to working in this way that I feel is so much more aligned with who I am as a human being. But I had to jump that fear hurdle of there is not enough and being worried about money in order to get to this place. And honestly, I'm so happy that I jumped it because I'm so much more aligned with who I authentically am. And the time freedom that I have is I know now that it is worth so much more than the money that I could be getting with just the typical working for someone else and renting out my time and getting a typical paycheck.
Yeah, and not that you can't kind of get more of that with working in a company. I mean, in my, before this Focus to Evolve project really blossomed into a company, I remember I had found that place at work. It does take some work, but there you can certainly start making decisions not just based on fear of money. You can start, doing projects differently, working your day differently. It becomes how you work when you're in the corporate setting. So I never encourage anyone to leave a company and go start your own, and that's the only way out. And I know, Tana, you believe that too.
For sure.
Yeah, but it is one of the many options. And I like how you say, this divinity is found in the paradox. It's when you pick up the stick of color, it's black and white, same stick, different ends.
Right.
It's the same with everything in life. Hot and cold, that's the same stick of temperature. In this case, it's scarcity and abundance, same stick. And it is an undulation. You got both of them in this big cosmos. You need to become healthy with having both of them and experiencing both of them. I was unhealthy. I was in the scarcity pocket at a subconscious level. And now I'm dabbling in the abundance and the scarcity thing, because there are times when, this is an expensive asset that we're going to invest in. And it put you back for a while. And, that stuff just never goes away. Interesting thing about this too is now my brother is fully almost in the abundance category. Same house, same town we grew up in, same mom and dad, same basic friend circle out in the cornfields of Shelby, Ohio. And but he somehow just bounced way over to the abundance thing, and it's wild. Money just falls out of the sky on that dude. And I'm grateful. I'm glad for it. I mean, it's amazing, and he does good things with it. But I'm just curious, how the heck did that happen? But at any rate, let's move on to myth number 2. And that is, we should say toxic myth number 2, as Lynne Twist coins these. And that is that more is better.
Right.
Just straight up, all things, people fall into that belief that just more. And the whole why more is not nowhere in the zip code. It's just more. Right. So people go and get 18 pillows, but don't you just need 1 or 2? Do you really need 64 pizzas for dinner instead of just 1 or 2 for the crowd here in the living room? But when it comes to money, never mind 1 or 2 pizzas. They're going for 880 million pizzas. Billions of pizzas. How much pizza are you going to shove in your mouth from a metaphorical point of view? It's funny, I was listening to Jason Silva do a little rant, and he talked about, this is kind of inappropriate, so sorry anyone we're going to offend, but he says that it's kind of like how if you look at a dog humping a leg, and then you take the leg away, and the dog keeps humping air. And all of these people who are just like ruthlessly chasing more money, it's kind of like they're just dogs humping the air. The leg's gone. There's no reason for it anymore. And they are just straight up fading meaningful relationships by the day. You know, the next car, the next boat, the next season, the next becomes their life instead of actual life right now.
Mhm.
And that is a really dangerous trap to fall in.
Yeah.
More is better is Lynn Twist's second toxic myth of money. What
Mhm.
do you feel about that one?
It's so interplayed with the first one.
Is
It- I definitely, to me, I know that it's hard to say. I know that I've hit the point where I am very comfortable um with money, and I know that, oh, this is a level where if there is a trip I want to go on, or if there is a thing that I want, that at this level I don't have to necessarily think about it all that much. And I I kind of have a plan for once I get above that level, how do I then become a steward of my money, or at least it's a plan of, okay, it's at this above this point, it's time to like source it out and figure out other ways other than just me to spend it on. So for me, it's like having that plan even before I get to that level, and thinking, okay, this is so that when I get to that level, I'm not just I don't get into this like gremlin type of thought process where I'm like, well, maybe I should just keep 10K more or 20K more just in case. It's like, no, like we made a promise to ourselves and to basically the universe that says once we get to this level, we become a steward of it, and we need to like figure out where else to put it. So for me, it's kind of having a plan once I get to that comfort level of where else it should go after that. And that's my way of kind of fighting
yeah.
the more is better within my own life. It's like, okay, if I get more, then at that point, I'm a steward and I just figure out where else it should go.
Well, that's a very mature way to look at it. And it also going the law of attraction. I mean, if you do that, you'll bring it in. But
Mhm.
then, yeah, when you get there, that there it is, that moment of, whoa, okay,
Yeah,
I got to that level. And there's nothing wrong with getting to that level. Like,
right.
get to that level
Mhm.
because it is great to have the amount of money that you define.
Right,
But then just having this unlimited, infinite up and up and up is where it
right.
gets really toxic. And if you get to the first thing that you thought was the place to be for you, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this isn't what I felt like. I'll go one more.
Yeah,
Okay. 80,000 a year. Okay, I made it. Okay, this isn't what I felt that it would be. I'm gonna go for 120, and
right.
then like 120. Oh my gosh, I'll live it. And then you get to 120, and then it's 400, and then it's like, nah, something else is going on.
Right,
Okay, maybe one more because
right.
yeah, when you're in your 20s and you think a certain amount of money, and then kids pop on the scene in college, and it gets expensive. So maybe one more. But
Yeah,
if you start doing it and you keep blowing past it, something else is going on, and you should probably read this book. All
right.
right. Toxic lie number 3, and this will be the last, and then everyone can get back to the fire. But toxic myth number 3, according to Lynn Twist, is that's just the way it is.
Right.
Okay, the thought that that's just the way it is. Rich are all greedy a-holes. These are the folks who fall into these categories or these thought patterns. The poor are all lazy bums. That's not true. We know that. Politicians are all power hungry, self serving creeps. These categorical, broad stroking beliefs, all that is, it's just enabling resignation and victimhood of yourself
Mhm.
and learned helplessness. The truth is, it's the way you choose it to be. That's the way it is.
Right.
And it all becomes about what's the next best play that I can do in my situation. Just some people just think they are where they are. Mom and dad, they're that way. All my brothers are, my cousins are. I didn't go to college. All of these thoughts of learned helplessness. Maybe that's all true. It has nothing to do with your very next minute and calorie that you're going to spend. You choose that every single minute over and over and over and over, and that choice never goes away. So yeah, if you somewhere in your heart believe toxic myth number 3, which is that's just the way it is, and you just throw it all up and accept your fate, that is a toxic myth about money. So any thoughts around that one, Tana?
Yeah, one of the biggest toxic myths about money and resources in the world is going back to there's not enough. It's the thought that it's a you or me world. Like it's if I have this, then you can't have it. And as we are evolving and we're inventing things and we can produce food faster with less resources and everything that we can accomplish with the use of our brains and our knowledge, it's becoming more and more a you and me world. And that is a definite shift in how we think of resources on this planet, but I definitely can see how that is more how I choose to look at the world, and how it's a way that we all can choose to look at the world. And if
Yeah.
you, then a lot of things will be changed for the better. Because
True.
how we've always thought about the way it is, it's not necessarily true. And we can always choose to think bigger and better in order to make the world more of what we actually want it to be, rather than what we've just been taught to think that it is.
Yeah. Wow, that's really profound. It kind of reminds me of the whole masculine feminine expression. I'm not talking about guys and girls. I'm talking about energetic expressions. The male toxic male expression of energy is fight and flight. We think that's human when something unknown or uncertain is in front of us, we fight or flight. That's actually not human. That's masculine expression. Feminine expression, and this is for guys and girls, okay? Feminine expression is understand and collaborate.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the traumas that we have around money, maybe it's time not to fight and flight anymore. Maybe we start expressing the other half of ourselves, which is understand and collaborate. And you said the key word, it's and.
Yeah.
It's not either or, it's and.
Mhm.
All these, we have the gamut of expression that we can choose to use. And it's super important that going forward, we all do that. And in our work, we're wanting to help people find stillness in their day so these natural truths are exposed within you. It's not our stuff. It's already in you, and you know this stuff. If you can just turn that buzzsaw down,
Yeah.
get organized, and breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
We're all powerful creatures. We just have to give ourselves the space to be powerful. So
Agreed.
if any of that resonated with you and you want to kind of learn how to find space, hit us up. That's what we love doing. We did it in our lives from very busy, sometimes toxic corporate settings. And we created a spacious, highly productive life. The companies loved it. We loved it. Our families loved it. And it's super important work. So we do hope to hear from you if that's something that resonates with you.
Yeah.
Any final words, Tana, on the book or the subject of, let's call it, your relationship with money? I think this book's a little bit about that. How's your relationship with money?
Yeah, I think it's just it's an outside of the normal paradigm kind of book, where if you are finding yourself being scared about money in any way, shape, or form, it's a good paradigm shifter book. And we definitely, as always, didn't get to even like 10% of the book. So you would be remiss in checking it out, reading it for yourself, because there is a lot of pearls of wisdom in this one. And I love her thoughts about it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, with that, I think we should wrap the book chat up, and let's you and I talk offline about what the next book's going to be. There's so many good ones out there, a lot to learn in this world.
Yes. Thanks, everybody.